Kendall Plume, Media Director for Strategic Marketing out of West Palm Beach, Florida. I'd like to have the panel introduce themselves right down the line.
Do I need to turn it on?
I think it's on.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kaylin Asher. I am the owner and founder of Asher Media, based in Dallas, Texas. I'm actually the owner of Avalanche Media Group, based in Austin, Texas as well, 2 different media agencies. Both agencies have been around for 24 years. I think it's the 24th year for Asher. And we're just paid media, all media. Out of home is one of my absolute favorites in my career, if I could pick one, because I've worked in all different media, but super excited about this conference because of the growing medium.
Hello, everyone, again. Jeff Litwer, Tenuity. Tenuity, we're probably one of the larger independent agencies that you may have never heard of, but we've been growing tremendously over the last few years. I lead our programmatic and display practice, not the greatest name of a practice, and it may be confusing as to why I'm here, but that also includes out-of-home and digital out-of-home, which has been really an amazing opportunity for traditional programmatic and digital buyers to bring new experiences to our clients and customers. So looking forward to chatting with everyone today.
Jillian Saul, I oversee the team at Ocean Media, here with my colleague Eileen. We have our performance marketing agency, have quite a few clients, BetMGM, Viator, Realtor, a lot of DTCs, and our out-of-home is growing leaps and bounds, so excited to learn from you all.
Thank you, guys. So, obviously we're here to talk about DOOH. It's the most cost-effective, dynamic, and flexible piece of advertising out there that's continuing to grow. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how the panel is going to share their tools and techniques of, as we like to say, they target their audience in the wild. Talk about some media strategies, specific goals, and a little bit about measurement, because I think we're going to talk about that later on. So the first question, and we can just go right down the line, are there brands or industries that should not, in your belief, be doing DOOH?
No, I thought long and hard about that question.
And that was the perfect short answer.
It is.
We have 35 minutes.
Right. No. We'll do also a lot of B2B, and so when I kind of get into how am I reaching engineers or how I'm reaching doctors, physicians, nurses, even try to, as unique and narrowed as that category, to me, obviously conferences, different things that are happening in their lives, but there's just, I haven't been able to come up with a particular industry or it doesn't make sense. So that's short and sweet for me.
All right.
Jeff?
So coming from programmatic and always really thinking about where our ads show up and where we don't want them to show up, the first thought I had was, what is the most inappropriate thing that could be on a billboard that would upset people? And I immediately figured that I'll leave that conversation for somebody else. I think I agree that there's a lot of opportunity for everyone, but I think I've been reading more articles lately. Why is my digital ad experience so bad? Why are there ads everywhere? Why is there no frequency management? I think we're finding ourselves where we were with programmatic 5-10 years ago. Like, what do we want this space to actually look like? And I would warn against bringing that direct response directly attributable to too much performance into this space, and making sure that we maintain that level of quality and high impact that, for example, we saw in the Zell presentation. So open to everyone, but I think it is definitely a medium that we need to be thinking about and designing creative for, and not just looking to squeeze out that last ROI.
I'm going to say no, too. What a shock. But two things, like the out-of-home, it lives on our local team, and because of that, we're able to do creative that targets the different markets. Like Josh talked about the Kentucky Derby creative. For BetMGM, we obviously do different states and different teams, so you have that there. So I think you would want to look and see what your target is and what you're trying to do, because obviously some markets are much better out-of-home markets, even digital, programmatic digital, all that, than others. So trying to figure that, and I'm just really excited for this conference, and again, what it's going to be next year, because I feel this is booming, it's evolving, and we're going to learn even more about measurement, and we can take that and use those learnings to incorporate into our video and audio buys as well.
Client's favorite thing, measurement.
We love measurement.
So you touched a little bit on the creative. So how do you think DOOH is driving creative? We saw some really great examples with the Zelle presentation. Just wondering how you're using it in your markets for your clients.
Much like the Zelle variety, you have to do the variety. I like that it's challenging the creatives to have to think, further outside of the big panels now and all the different spaces. And so the list of assets that we have to give is now very lengthy. So to me, that's exciting, and what they can really do with it, and like very much varied, because it is going to frequency and you're going to get burnout. So
Do you have any favorite creatives that you've used for DOH?
oh,
Put it literally on the spot.
that is on the spot. I don't have any.
Okay.
Ollie, you have any favorites?
Any personal favorites or client
Like
creative
YouTube.
Either.
that we've ran?
Yeah. And how is DOH driving the creative?
Okay, so I'll take a step back and then I'll come to
Okay.
our example of creative. And I'm going to come off a little bit jaded. I'm a programmatic guy. I grew up in this industry, but we've had similar capabilities in the programmatic space for a long time, right? Bidding up certain temperatures, changing creative based on all sorts of signals in the bid stream. And I think I'm going back to my point of like, when was the last time you saw a really amazing banner creative? And I think it's less the technology or the channel or the medium that's driving creative, and really I think it's why we're here and what this panel is about, and it's the strategy, right? It has to come from the strategy. We have to want to reach specific audiences in a specific way with a specific message to drive an outcome, right? How we trigger ads, the iterations of creative, all comes from that strategy, and without that, we're kind of chasing our tails a little bit and chasing buzzwords. We've done a lot of interesting out-of-home. We're going to be talking about creative on Wednesday. My colleague Jillian Moore is over there. So I don't want to tease out too much, but we did just have a client in the trades, Elf Cosmetics, which has really just been pushing the limits and really being an innovator out there. Did what they called or questioning social out-of-home. And I know there's a bunch of companies that are at this conference kind of playing in that space and incorporating the virality and the excitement of video creative or static creative that's happening on their TikTok and other social channels, and pulling that into out of home in very key relevant moments has just shown to maximize impact in significant ways as it relates to the business, but also just the buzz, whether it's industry trades or making it into consumer publications. This is a major attention getting medium. It's exciting to be a part of it.
So I will say, I'll start with my favorite creative out-of-home executions we've done. We've done quite a few. We branded the train from Secaucus to Meadowlines. It's the BetMGM line. If anyone is familiar with sports betting, you bet on the lines. So that was really cool. We also did a station domination, so it included wraps, statics, digital, because it's part of the overall strategy. We also did, I love the 3D billboards, that is digital, that counts. We did a 3D billboard in Toronto as well as Vegas. And then as far as fitting into a strategy, right now we have Viator, and that's a company that's, you come to La Jolla, what am I gonna do in La Jolla? And you look up activities to do. Catamaran cruises, brewery, no hikes, but, and you look up those on their website. So we use a combination of all out of home. We did the high impact billboards, the digital boards when you go to the airport. And then when you're in the city, we did a lot of programmatic out of home, actually probably with a lot of people that are here, targeting the consumers where they're at. So. And we also did some static wraps too, and it's kind of also paying attention to the market. You're in New Orleans. There's not a lot of digital that's in the French Quarter, so you have to do that market differently than say Vegas, where all the perms are taken already by the casinos. So paying attention to that and using a more targeted approach.
Interesting. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about standardized measurement. Do we think that we will ever have a standardized measurement for DOOH? Is there going to be an opportunity where we get down the road and, measurement? I mean, obviously, it's something clients really like to see. What do you foresee for measurement?
As an agency, I definitely want to see it.
Yeah,
so I think we'll get there. Seeing measurement in other media slowly getting there as well. And so it's kind of setting the stage for it. But I think so. Just we need it. I mean, we need it. So how long will it take? I don't know. But and that we'll have a roundtable on that actually too. So we'll get a lot of good conversation happening about that. But we need to get there. Yeah.
It seems great. I don't know how we get there, to be honest. I think some of this is a little bit of a shift in the way we think about measurement. I think we're coming from a place, again, in programmatic, where we've been looking for standardized measurement or MTA or incrementality. All of it has been difficult, and we're thrown just another curveball anytime that we think that we're getting closer. Agencies, just companies in general, are getting better at media mix modeling, starting to leverage artificial intelligence to be able to look at all of the data that is actually out there and start to think a little bit more holistically. We don't always need to be in the trenches and understanding very specific ROIs or ROAS, as long as we are driving the business overall through this optimal media mix and have data to support the optimizations that we make over time. So would love more marketers to shift how they think about measuring and identifying what is actually driving their business. Now let's have a little bit more fun.
I'm a betting woman, so I'm going to say yes in 3 years. Every agency I've been at, I've always been part of the emerging media team. Way back when, streaming audio, CTV with DOOH at USIM. Hi. And podcasts, that was on our team as well at Ocean. And you first get into it, and it's just kind of a cluster, and then a couple companies buy each other, and then you have your measurement. So I definitely think that we'll get there, but it's going to be a learning process as we go.
I think of it in comparison to, I do a lot of TV, right? So you have a post, you have something to post against, everybody, has to come to the table with their numbers. That's measurable, right, to some extent. So it's interesting to get your feedback and, see what, in 3 years, you said?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
We'll watch out. There'll probably be a few mergers.
So next question, do your DOOH campaigns start with DOOH initially, or does that channel get integrated afterwards? So is it a part of the main campaign, or is it something that's brought in secondarily?
Both. It depends on the campaign and which medium is maybe leading. For me, it's where my brain goes because, again, it's one of my favorites. So I tend to start in that place. But we recently did a campaign for Swift Meats and tailgating in Columbia, South Carolina, for a good 6 weeks, and creative was really pushing the audio side of that, again, about how this tailgating is going on. We're trying to drive people to Food Line, so. You're going to see the tailgating, you're going to see us out there grilling all these great meats, but you can't get it there. You have to actually go to a third place to go pick it up. So for us, audio was great, but at the same time, really throwing in a lot of the DMA-wide level digital out of home is just what expanded the complete awareness on that. The reach, it wouldn't have gotten there without it. So I kind of started that way, but creative actually started with the other. So I think it varies.
It depends on where you start, right?
Yeah.
No straightforward answer in this industry, I feel like. Definitely both, right? We have the testing clients, right? They know there's opportunity in digital out of home. They want to see a line item. They want to test. They want to see how they can grow that opportunity for their brand. And then there's, when we make a strategic recommendation, that's part of, a more holistic plan. Clients come and they want some experiential or a way to engage with audiences, and I think the more broad the brief is for us, the better. Jillian's going to talk a little bit on Wednesday about Liquid IV, who is a client of ours. They're owned by Unilever. Some of you may be adding the packets of powder into your water this morning to hydrate you, depending on how much fun you had last night. There you go. And we've done out of home that we never even would have thought of even just a year or two ago, and things that are starting, digital native programs. So starting on the Twitch platform, really around this idea of gaming and getting around that that audience in that specific moments, and then tying what we're doing on that online platform into actual festivals. So having users all night at home on Twitch in this interactive and engaging environment where they were actually voting to control the lighting at this outdoor festival. I don't want to give away too much. But the point is there is just so much opportunity beyond just kiosks and billboards and deeper integration that we can have with other existing components of our campaign, audio, or our beloved banner ad. There is really no limit to what we can do as digital buyers today.
I gotta say, you threw me off because I forgot you had a Jillian as well, and I'm like, what am I talking about on Wednesday? You have a much smarter Jilly for that. Can you tell me the question again?
What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Oh. So do your campaigns start with DOOH initially, or it gets integrated afterwards?
I'm going to say both. He talked a lot about testing. Yeah. We do a lot of testing at our things, testing different medias to see if they perform, and then going into, broader markets. But then the thing is looking at the overall strategy. We have, it is BetMGM, but, New Jersey, if you're going to go into the New Jersey quote unquote market, it's not a market, it's a state, right? But you have the number 1, number 4 DMAs there. And if you're going to do a high video, you have a ton of waste. So it could be leading more into or digital out of home than, a different state where there might, the DMAs, the video and the audio might have more penetration and stuff like that. Also, it also is creative. How many different aspects of creative the client is willing to make and has. And even rights, because for BetMGM, they don't have all the team rights. So if we have certain team rights, we can use like the Eagles or something like that. But if we don't have a team right, then it's a different creative messaging.
Gotcha. I see you're a Green Bay fan.
I am. We're not there yet.
So a little bit about social engagement. Does DOOH drive social engagement?
I would say your example's great with Twitch. Yeah, so for sure. And really marrying the two together, I think, is definitely where we're headed if we haven't already been there for a lot of clients, and conversations, but just the full true-on engagement in real life. So I think being able to utilize that, I'm trying to think of a really good example, but now I'm stuck on your Twitch example. But it definitely, the two really do go together. And because if you're interacting in bars, if you're interacting in restaurants and grocery stores and different places, at the same time, almost you're always on some social platform these days, so pick one. So together.
I think it goes back to the strategy. You have to want to get that social engagement, right? There's not really an easy way to just send out your existing creative and hope that it's going to go, have some type of virality or crazy engagement. It really has to be built into the overall campaign. But as we've seen across ELF and Liquid IV, many clients, you can drive that social engagement, if that's key to your goals.
Yeah, and I'll say a couple examples that I've seen, which now I'm going to blank. I think it was like DoorDash. They were doing highly localized creative to where they were, and tons of people are sharing it on Instagram, on TikTok, and whatnot. And then obviously there's the high impact ones like the 3D boards and all those different things that are happening right now. So definitely, but I think creative leads that first. It's not going to be programmatic out of home.
So this will be a good one. Are there certain target groups that are more receptive to DOOH? Do you feel? And if so, what are some of the ones that you've targeted?
Well, I think we've talked about banners and how we've seen plenty of them, and they can now be sort of just kind of go to the wayside. So they have to be impactful. I think the more relevant you get, obviously, with a Liquid IV in bars, you really can.
I didn't say that.
I said it. I can say it. You didn't say it. That's where my daughter finds it. So, passion fruit's her favorite. I like it too. But anyway, the more relevant you get with it, I think is where it's more receptive, right? And so we do a lot of healthcare, so again, trying to reach consumers who are in gyms might be thinking more about health, their health and what's going on. So hitting them at that time, I think they'll just be more receptive. So, and again, these places like a gym or a grocery store, gas pumps back in the day and still going. I mean, all can reach that particular audience that you really need. I wouldn't recommend one for the other, just definitely what fits that right, and I think it is more receptive.
Yeah, I don't know, target group sounds like a very hot button issue. But I think if we change that to a context and the moment, kind of what you were just speaking about, right? I mean, depending on what your goal is, it's about taking advantage of that moment. Somebody at a gas pump is different than somebody who's at a checkout cash register at a supermarket versus somebody who's in a nail salon. I think it really is, whether it's your display banners or it is your billboards or your out of home, really thinking about being that user in that moment. Are you receptive to something? What would resonate? What could I be talked into doing?
And the opposite of taking it away from certain places that you don't want to be, like you were saying, because it for sure will go on deaf ears,
100%.
I'm going to echo what everyone else said as well. I'm like, I don't know what else to say about it because it is right. I think, Josh, you said you're exposed to, 7,000 messages a day or something like that. So even if you're not receptive, you're still seeing it, and you're seeing it in those environments. And if you look even at the sponsors, right, you got the sports bars, Ubers and Lyfts, I think grocery store, malls, like you're already targeted to a certain area there, versus if you do programmatic, you're more targeting the person, and then it's being served out into the world.
Last question. This one's a little vague. Any lessons learned in the last 6 months in DOOH? Anything specific you'd like to share?
Hard to measure. That's another one. Unless you're doing a lot of lift. Part of I would say a challenge that we get that has been a lesson is no matter when we try to get the right asset list, and we get it, and we still send it over to creative to create, it seems like we're resizing everything all the time. So there is no standardization, because again, we're hitting a whole bunch of new places now, a whole bunch of different avenues, and I think I call it just a challenge of trying to eliminate a lot of waste of time in getting the right dimensions and assets and what you need. Just seems to be a problem. So that's been a lesson lately of how much more clear can I be when asking for this and delivering it, and can the creative follow it?
I could piggyback off that one. I'm going to do this one for my team. SLAs, service level agreements, time to launch. We play in the performance media space where heavy digital clients move very quick, whether it's optimization or deploying campaigns and looking to get things into market, especially if you're in regulated spaces like gambling, right? Things are harder to get approved. We're working with multiple partners, multiple inventory suppliers. Creative, all of this takes extra time. And so get ahead of it, pad those time schedules, avoid that stress and that last minute crunch trying to get these campaigns into market, because you don't want to get the wrong campaign into market when it's on a giant billboard in Times Square.
I have a question for you to piggyback off that. Do you think it'll get easier as we go, as we learn, and as we build the wheel of how we create these campaigns and how you streamline with the team and the creative, which is always a challenge? Do you foresee that getting easier as far as the time goes of what it'll take to execute those types of campaigns? I mean, it's like anything else, right? We have to create.
That's right. This Jillian, to be specific, is I'm gonna ride on her optimism and just say, yeah.
In 3 years.
3 years. At 3 years.
Right. I think similar to the measurement piece. I mean, consolidation is going to be key to allowing that to happen. There's just too many disparate partners. The ecosystem is super crowded. It's very confusing for buyers and brands, and I think that is part of bringing this all together.
I think the adoption, the continuing adoption of it, will help spur that further. I think we get a lot of resistance. I think a year and a half ago, I'm trying to put a board in Times Square, and I just kept getting shot down on buildings because of the content and different things. And it's like, okay, we've really got to move forward. And so I just think the evolution of time is going to help that for sure.
Gives me hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've learned a lot, even in the past week. We've had, I mean, come on, let's be real. We all working out of home. There's always something going on. Something kind of interesting, though, that where digital out of home helps us is I'm going to use BetMGM again, sorry, but I am, is in Massachusetts. That market is going live, but that launch date has changed, I think, about, 5 or 6 times. So if we had have already made like a static board or something like that, we'd have to go and redo the creative. Versus digital, you can change it out really fast, which is very, very nice, especially in launching markets. So it's being very patient. Eileen is half director, half lawyer over there, so, but
Good mix.
it's a good mix, so.
So we've shrunk the time from traditional to digital. We just
Right.
need to keep shrinking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go for questions. You have questions of our panel?
Yeah.
Hi, Ben again. Great job. Wondering, is the technology like an SSP or some other vendor relationship could help with that? Like, screen dimensions are a mess, right? But the information isn't making its way to the source. It makes your job more difficult. So I think it's true partnership that could alleviate some of that churn, especially when it comes to specs. Would you guys agree?
Another vendor.
Yes. Do you, I feel you're teeing up Hivestack, though.
I'm here to tee up
Everything. No, but it definitely, I mean, I think there's a lot of, it's how any media works, any media that's out there. It's always evolving. There's always different things that we can do, but definitely, like, having our vendors help us out with that would be a huge help, helping with help.
Yours is accurate, Julian. It's gonna take, it takes a while to put the logo piece, Lego piece together rather. So
It is, and
there's a lot of moving parts here. There's even sales dynamics where you're not necessarily getting, your commission based on programmatic efforts. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to work out still, and I guess my point is maybe the technology and the partnership could help.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Hi, everyone. Christina Smith, Big Island Coffee Roasters. I am very new to the digital out-of-home space. In fact, I am more of a, well, I'd say traditional digital marketer, but I'm not even sure what traditional digital is any longer. But I spend my days in search and social and, the things like that. As paid social, I think, really is starting to poop the bed these days. We're all looking for new channels. And for me, the out-of-home is what I'm interested in. Here's my question. The thing I do love about the paid socials and paid searches of the world is the ability to exclude customers, whether that's down to a literal individual or, based upon demographic or psychographic or geographic or any ick that you want to put in there. And what I can't wrap my brain around just yet is how you can exclude customers in digital out of home, regardless of the type of platform, to make for the most efficient advertising capability. So I'd love to hear from any of you guys if you've got, tips, tricks, clever suggestions.
I think I would go back as to why the exclusion, and if it's just an efficiency play, I think there are lots of ways to get around efficiencies. If it's a CPM target or something, right, we can get you that efficiency while not excluding a specific audience. Otherwise, we are looking at traditional media planning to understand where specific audiences are and avoiding boards in those areas. But I think the idea that a board is going to pick up a mobile ID specifically in a radius and not show a particular ad, I hope we don't go in that direction. So I think blended CPM or hitting whatever that efficiency target alleviates the need to actually target in the first place outside of some very nuanced situations.
We'll do it in display. Obviously, hitting workers in a particular building that we will negatively geofence them because we know they're going in every day, and that's not who we're looking for. But I don't think, to me, out of home is meant to do that. It is meant to. It's always been, even from the traditional sense, while we can allows us to get a lot more targeted. It's really meant to hit as many people in that space as possible. And I'm not sure I'd want to take people out from a digital out of home. I would just try to get it, especially programmatically, when I can get my audience in there, hope that it's really hitting the right people and not hitting the guy next door or the guy walking in because he wasn't there. But at the same time, it's too hard to, I think, exclude, personally.
More of an inclusive.
It is very inclusive. I don't think, I mean, I cannot think of any way to exclude anybody from that.
I want to follow up on Kendall's question about standardization. To dig beyond standardization, I would like to know from you guys, are there particular metrics that you're seeing, not standardized, but that you're seeing being used that you're especially excited about? The things that you can measure about digital out of home that you can excite your clients about, or that you yourself are excited about that you didn't think was possible, or that really adds dimension to the overall media mix?
I guess I'll go first. We use like the mobile ad ideas to see exposed and unexposed lift for those, and that's kind of helpful also to layer on with the client's data. Obviously, some clients give us more than others, but we pair that with our internal analytics team that kind of help us use those learnings, and then we can optimize not only our digital out of home, but our connected TV, our streaming audio, the whole shebang. Official media word, shebang.
Somebody on my team said to me, it might even have been Jillian over there, man, you love match markets. Geez, not one laugh here, okay.
I love match markets.
We've seen a ton of success with match market testing. I know it's not like the digital attribution and device ID, or, something sophisticated, but to really understand the control that a whole out market, and when we run out of home to actually look at the lift that we're seeing in that market, there really is not a cleaner read that we can get, and that has been the most eye-opening for clients. It's easy to iterate off of and build off of. At some point, you exhaust that, but once you've proven the channel, we can look at some other methodologies.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the amount of awareness that you really can generate when it's in and versus when it's not. And so there's a lot of testing and learning of in certain places, whether it's certain audiences or whether it's market specific. We're really measuring when we're utilizing it and when we're not, just to see that as it moves up the funnel, it's really helping with the awareness.
How are you thinking about visual clutter? Jillian, you mentioned you think about place, like in Las Vegas, the fact that the major casinos already have the big images, but I'm curious, are you thinking about the visual mix when you're thinking about creative and how you stand out within a given context?
Well, that's a good question, Steve. I think so. Again, it goes down to the different markets and even what's available when if everything's permed or not. But as far as digital clutter, I wouldn't, at this time, probably not, because it's more, we look for the high impact placements. And if they're the high impact placements for the digital out of home, we're going to survey what's around it, what's the environment, where is our consumer coming from and going to. And then we use, programmatic as a frequency play. So I'm going to say no, but someone here might say yes. Probably Jeff.
Yes, no. I wish we were doing that more. It's really hard to understand the actual real life clutter. I mean, so I think, on the back end, from a data perspective, like actually, seeing if we can find clutter in the data and avoid it, based on performance that we're seeing, I think we want to go there, but controlling it in the open market is a little bit harder. And just to throw some SSP love, because I didn't get to answer that question, yes, SSP partners are a major part of this, and the standardization, even things like this, there are too many people and partners in the ecosystem to reach out to. So centralizing that to help us better understand where there is and isn't clutter and how to avoid it, that has been a tremendous resource for us as buyers.
And I'm actually the opposite. I'm having more of a challenge of going into markets where digital's still not allowed. And so I'm more, I find that less of a challenge for me because I feel like Austin, no digital. Houston, proper, no digital, it's approved. Nobody can tell me when. So there are certain markets where it's still not there and government's continuing to fight it. So we are having to get deeper in, and yes, Andrew can help support me on all that because he's there. So I need, a lot of help in that space, but it's just the opposite for me.
I can piggyback off that.
Yeah.
Houston, Austin was a huge issue. I get really excited when we get to open a new market. And part of the challenge is having all of the channels available there to you that you already have in place in other markets to replicate what's successful in a campaign. You know what I mean? So I agree with that.
So
Crazy.
my exit question is, since you're all agencies, what is the nature of the pushback you get from brands when you bring digital out of home to them as an option?
Measurement.
Where's the resistance? What's it coming from?
I'd say the measurement, the lack of the ability to be able to show, you know, what you would in traditional media. You know, this is how many clicks you've had, this is how many click-throughs we've had, this is, you know, how many scans of the QR code, which is coming back. Who knew the QR code was coming back? But the standardized, you know, process of how we show the measurement of what we've actually put the money into. And that not being there, I find to be a challenge with new clients. Some clients, you know, you'll have the ones that will let you do tests and trials and, you know, test new, you know, avenues.
And I've got two varying issues. One would be most clients who are they're receptive to out of home are so dazzled by everything, all the other media that's growing with podcasts and all the CTV and the streaming, that it's just sort of down their list. It's just not as relevant to them. And so even when we come in and we're selling it and we're talking about the greatness, they're like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. So I don't see them as psyched about it. And then the clients who are super, super into out of home, they've been that way. It is on the forefront. Lottery, Texas Lottery, trying to get them to go into digital, it's insane. So you have some of these clients who are so still stuck back in the traditional, and it has to do with the people, and they're just...
So convincing out-of-home advertisers to go digital is
Correct.
actually a
It's actually a
hurdle.
huge challenge. Hospitals, lottery, a lot of them are, you just have staff and people who have been in these positions for so long, and they're like, they don't want to change. They just don't want to change. So those are two different opposites for me.
I think that makes total sense. I think where we're trying to combat that is this idea around moments, and that, you know, a client doesn't have to come to us and say, we want to invest in the digital out-of-home channel, like we want to test it, right? If we get a brief that's looking to achieve some objective or reach an audience or get around the cultural moment, we're bringing them those ideas inherently in our thinking as a well-rounded recommendation. And the more they see it, the more they get excited about it. You know, we're starting to see that adoption increase and the excitement around it in general. But the right client who has not run out of home before is going to be overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, you know, helping them understand that it is not impossible and that we can drive outcomes.
Kind of going to say the same thing as Jeff. Our agency, we do a lot of test buys, so our client, or we all like to test different media, so the client we have, that they are open to those different ideas. I would say the biggest challenge is all the creative, which I'm excited for you to help me with, because there are so many different sizes that you can have. Also, you know, if you're messaging, like Josh, you talked all those different messaging you have there, well, you have to have a ton of copywriters to do all that, and then if you have to change it out super last minute. So I would say personally for us, that seems to be the biggest obstacle.
We are going to do a roundtable that drafts off of this panel at the end of the morning, so you guys can dig in with everybody here. Guys, thank you so much. Great
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you.